Aroostook County shares hundreds of miles with the Canadian border, making border issues particularly relevant to those that live in the north. Rothery Sullivan spoke with Governor Mills about a couple of current border issues.
Maine's border has seen an increase in illegal crossings in recent years, according to the Holton sector of the U.S. Border Patrol. WAGM asked Governor Janet Mills if she was working on anything to improve security on the northern border.
My goal would be for people who are coming here to seek asylum, whether they're human trafficking victims, political victims, refugees, put them to work as soon as possible, get them work availability, work visas, work permits. In terms of anybody else that's coming here for other purposes, well, we've got to beef up our border security. It is really up to Congress to take action because it's a federal issue. And I guess that's what I have to say about that.
WAGM also asked Governor Mills about the CDC regulations that limit dogs that enter the U.S. Current regulations have been put on hold until the spring, but there is still a concern that strict regulations will go into effect in the future.
I was pleased that our delegation, including Congressman Golden and Senator Collins and Senator King, all responded vehemently against the regulations that would limit the entry of dogs into the United States, particularly for Can-Am. I would hate to see the Can-Am suffer the consequences of overregulation of dogs by the federal government.
Governor Mills did not say if she was working on anything for these issues, and instead deferred to those working at a federal level.